You are Locked On Warriors Postcast, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Warriors Postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And tonight, the Golden State Warriors have now lost back-to-back games for the first time this season, falling to the Brooklyn Nets 128-120 at Chase Center. Despite opening up an 18-point lead in the third quarter, the Golden State Warriors couldn't hold down the Brooklyn Nets, who went on a 27-6 run that really took control of this game, and they never gave that back. Dennis the Menace Schroder led the way for the Brooklyn Nets with 31 points and 7 assists, giving the Dubs fits all night long. And the Warriors got away from the inside game they built their lead on as this game progressed. And again, some questionable minute distribution from Steve Kerr. What happened with Moses Moody in this one? Why did we go away from him? This is easily the worst loss of the season so far for this Golden State Warriors team. We'll break it all down, but first, I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please, if you aren't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks also for listening on the Locked On Warriors podcast feed, making us your first listen following these Warriors games. Make sure to check out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. And today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And the Warriors, as I just said, in the first half, I mean, they really opened up this lead with a solid inside-out game, and it seemed like they were just going to the well constantly. Nick Claxton was out, and so was Ben Simmons for the Brooklyn Nets. So you had every opportunity with Zaire Williams playing essentially at the 5 for the Nets to just go down there and bully them and beat them up in the paint. And the Warriors are pretty good at beating up teams that are bigger than them in the paint. And today, they showed their strength being the aggressor on offense in this first half. I mean, the Warriors, a 30-point first quarter, a 37-point second quarter, and then going away in the third, again, really just pounding the ball inside repeatedly. And for whatever reason, in the second half, they kind of stopped doing that. They started chasing threes, felt like they were a little shell-shocked by the way that the Nets started to shoot the ball. The Nets caught fire a little bit from three, and the Warriors defense was a little slow to react. This was probably the worst I've seen them play this year so far. I mean, the rotations were a little bit slow on the perimeter. The contests just weren't there. It didn't seem like the Warriors were playing with that same intensity that we've seen from this Jerry Stackhouse defense all season long. And I mean, the Nets, it just seemed like once they saw one go through the bucket in that third quarter, they just all started going through the bucket. They all caught fire. 9 different guys for the Nets drained three-pointers, and they drained 20 of them, 20 for 45 from distance, 44.4% from three-point land for the Brooklyn Nets. That was, I mean, I think the Warriors saw that going in, and they felt like they had to go and respond with some threes of their own. They started chasing that three-point shot, trying to shoot themselves back into this game. The Warriors, they weren't terrible from three. They were actually pretty good, 41%, 19 of 46, but I feel like if they had just kept pace of this game, if they had kept control of this game, they would have just been able to bleed the Nets out, just pounding the ball inside. I thought the Warriors got a little they were playing to the Nets' strengths in the second half instead of playing to their own strengths that they had built their lead on. They let the Nets take control of this game in pace, in tempo, in flow, and momentum. And the Nets just took that and never surrendered it. In the fourth quarter, we saw the Warriors, it start getting a little bit closer after the Nets took that lead back from them. The Warriors fought back a couple times, but never managed to tie it back up after the Nets took that lead in the fourth quarter. And they just won going away in this one. End up with a 11-point lead before this one's all said and done in this fourth quarter. The Warriors defense really did not look great in the second half. They didn't respond well to being bombarded by these three-point shots. And you got to give a little bit of credit to the Brooklyn Nets, because tonight they really came out here looking to let it fly. And they do that often. I mean, they're a top 10 offense in the NBA. Their three-point percentage is 38.2% on the season. That's 5th best in the league. And they've made 264 threes so far this season, which is 5th most in the NBA. So this is a team that's going to shoot the three ball. I mean, that's what they like to do. And you assume that they would do that a lot more tonight when they're missing basically their entire interior of their starting lineup. And two big guys that they lean on in Claxton and Simmons in that painted area. And so you just say, hey, Cam Thomas, Dennis Schroder, and Jalen Wilson, go out there and just chuck up as many threes as you want to. And it worked out. And they got some points off the bench too from Shake Milton. He had a nice little 28 minutes for them, plus 11, plus minus 13 points off the bench, a couple of rebounds, a couple of assists. He I thought was a good spark off the bench for the Nets. Other than that, though, it was really the starting lineup. Zaire Williams, former Stanford product, really looked well. I thought he did a great job tonight. I mean, just doing everything he could to hold his own in the paint against bigger defenders. And I felt like the Warriors really did him a favor by not just using TJD more. Just use him as a battering ram and wear these guys down. Their bench was not super deep. Force Zaire Williams to play that defense, to get set in his defensive stance and try and hold Trace Jackson Davis out of the paint, try and hold Draymond Green out of the paint. Like, I don't know why the Warriors did it. Just keep going to the well and keep hammering these guys, because they were clearly getting tired of dealing with the Warriors in the paint. They were starting to slow down, and it looked like the Warriors were going to be able to really dominate this flow, this tempo, and just the physicality of the game. Not so. The Nets three-pointers just kind of pushed the Warriors into shooting a bunch of threes of their own and going away from that inside game. It just did not look like the Warriors are playing Warriors basketball. Like, so far this season, we talked about this a couple nights ago. The Warriors, the one thing that makes their defense great is they don't really make too many adjustments. They force people on this Warriors team. They force everybody to buy in to the defensive philosophy, because it's got to work, because there's no backup plan. This is what they're doing. And that's it. Get on or get out of the way. Like, get on the ship or get out of the way. You're just going to slow everyone else down if you're not on board with the plan. But tonight, the Warriors seemed to go a little bit away from that plan. It seemed to there was a lot of open shots from three for the Nets, a lot of ISO plays from the Nets too on the perimeter that ended up in 3-point shots. I mean, the Nets only had 21 assists tonight on 41 made shots. So, I mean, you had a lot of isolation moments for the Brooklyn Nets, and it just seems like they, won every single one of those matchups, which is something that we haven't seen from the Warriors. We've seen a lot of really good help defense. We didn't see a lot of that tonight, and the rotations just weren't as clean. So it begs the question, because of the way that they lost to the Spurs the other night. We didn't do a post-game show after that loss, but it begs the question, are there cracks in this Warriors armor, in this Warriors defense? I mean, we saw them, kind of blow a big lead. It was very eerie. It was almost like a little bit of deja vu this game versus what I saw them do against the Spurs. I mean, you open up a 18-point lead tonight, you lose by 8. You opened up a 17-point lead against the Spurs in their last time out, and you end up losing that one, I think, by 7. So, I mean, that was you lost that one by 8 also, actually, not 7. So that was, I mean, is this a problem? The Warriors defense showing a little bit of give. I mean, maybe it's maybe the people who are saying that this 12, 13-man rotation isn't a sustainable thing. Maybe this is a point that they look to and say, this wasn't sustainable. This defense couldn't play at this level forever. And I just don't think that's right. I don't think that's accurate. I think that these last 2 games have been the exception to the norm. I think that there's been some questionable minutes usage from Steve Kerr. We can talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But the Warriors overall, they did not keep doing what they were doing. They deviated from their philosophy, which is so unlike this team, so unlike what we've seen from them do. So unlike what we've seen from them so far this season. They have been so steadfast in what they want to do, and that just didn't happen today. I mean, the Warriors, some of the familiar problems came back. Don't get me wrong, the free throw shooting down the stretch. We watched Draymond get 4 shots and make 1. That is not good. The Warriors as a whole tonight, the free throw shooting was terrible. 11 for 17, just 64% again. In the Nets made 26 of 30. So you lose by 15 points at the free throw line. That's tough to recover from. And points off turnovers also were a large problem. You look at the turnover numbers, and it was 13 for the Warriors and 12 for the Nets. So you figured that would be pretty even. But no, the Nets outscore the Warriors 26-12 in points off turnovers, which is troubling to me, because the Warriors usually are the ones looking to get out and push the pace off the turnover, and they just didn't do that as well tonight either. So really, all the way around, the Warriors did not do they didn't play their game. They didn't play their game. They did outscore the Nets 52-34 in the paint. That number should have been even more of a disparity. The Warriors should have easily been north of 60 points in the paint tonight, and that would have made a huge difference in this one for them. But instead, you end up losing this one by 8, 128-120. And the defense, it was so much of a different game than we normally see them play. I mean, when you see your opponent shoot 44% from three-point land and 49% from the field, and this is a Warriors team that's holding most opponents to well below 40% from three, and in a lot of opponents to well below or to below 40% from the field as well. So the Brooklyn Nets really just, you got to give them a little bit of credit tonight. Dennis Schroder, 31 points. Cam Thomas, 23 points. Zaire Williams, 19 points, and Jalen Wilson, 18 points. Their starters did all of the heavy lifting for them. A lot of three balls, 9 different nets make a three-pointer. And they stormed back in that massive third quarter run that just buried the Warriors and took all the momentum away. And one thing I kept finding myself asking during that run was, where is Moses Moody? Why is this guy not getting another shot out there after the first half he had, after the way TJD was playing on the inside and just punishing the Nets on the interior? Why did they not go back to the well? Why did they not keep doing this in the second half when this lead started to dwindle late in the third quarter? Let's get into that next on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Today's show is sponsored by SKIMS. Even though I wear underwear every day, I have not switched up the type of underwear I bought since college. For those who haven't heard yet, SKIMS now offers men's underwear, and I'm here to tell you it's worth the hype. I feel like at this point, I've tried every boxer brief in the game, but nothing ever fits just right. I think we finally have a winner, guys. SKIMS came out with their cotton 5-inch boxer brief, and it honestly puts other brands to shame. They hit right at the thigh and stay there. That's the key. They don't move around, they don't bag out, and they don't give you that 5 BM wedgie. If you're a boxer brief guy like me, this is the one. Shop SKIMS Mens at skims.com/lockedonnba. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for the whole family, SKIMS just launched their biggest holiday shop ever. Also available at skims.com/lockedonnba. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. And today, the Warriors fall 128-120, the second game in a row that the Warriors have given up a late lead and just couldn't grab it back. And that's something that we haven't seen the Warriors do very much of this season. We saw them do that a lot last year. But in most games, the Warriors have let opponents back into them this year. They've gotten back up and responded to the haymaker punch. And tonight, the Warriors were not able to get back up off of the mat after the Nets landed a 27-6 run, the equivalent of like a Mike Tyson cross right to the chin. And not a 60-year-old Mike Tyson, mind you, but more like a 29, 30-year-old Iron Mike back in his heyday. None of this Jake Paul, Mike Tyson crap that we got now. But that's basically what the Warriors sustained from the Nets today in the second half. And the Warriors were just laid flat out on the mat on their backs and could not get back up afterwards. And I mean, that was it for the Warriors. I mean, the thing that bothered me was that Kerr didn't make very many adjustments. He just kind of went back to what the Warriors did a lot last year, which was just throw Steph out there and say, please God, Steph, just save us, just carry us to the promised land, make 33s in the second half, and just break every single NBA record on the way to winning this game for the Warriors. And that's not a way that this team is going to win a lot of games this season. We've talked about this a lot this year. The Warriors win games this year with this team, not just because of Steph. Obviously, you have Steph that you're going to be in every single game just because of his shooting ability, but you have the bench to rely on that's incredibly deep. You have this defense that is going to keep you in every single game. And the things that were normally the strengths for the Warriors tonight were definitely not their strengths. I mean, but they could have been. It wasn't that these guys were just playing bad. I mean, Moses Moody in the first half, 6 of 7 from the field. This guy was lighting it up. He played so well. He got the halftime interview on NBC Sports Bay Area. He got to talk to Fitz and Buki at the half, but he barely saw the court in the second half. I mean, he goes 6 of 7 from the field in the first half, 3 of 4 from 3, 15 points, and only gets one shot up in the second half. and barely any minutes. Why? This doesn't make any sense to me. Moses Moody had been playing so well all day long, and I don't know why he just did not get a shot in the second half. And I know that, I mean, we see a lot of the rotations that they're throwing out there. You don't super often see Moses Moody and GP2 out on the court at the same time. And GP2 was playing really well, and especially in the second half. He was so active in the second half. It might have been a little bit unnoticed in what GP2 was doing, but man, this guy was just filling up the stat sheet for the Warriors. I mean, he had 22 minutes, 4 of 9 from the field. He had 4 offensive rebounds and 5 defensive rebounds. So 9 total rebounds for GP2, 4 boards, 2 steals. He was all over the place. No turnovers for him either. And so he had 8 points. But I mean, his active hands on defense and his ability to just be a disruptor and a great on-ball defender, I could see why that's appealing amidst, the barrage of Brooklyn Nets 3-pointers, especially a lot of them coming in ISO situations. However, Moses Moody's a pretty damn good on-ball defender too. He was the only guy who was really in offensive flow besides Steph tonight. I mean, Wiggins did okay. He was 7 of 13, 2 of 4 from 3, and he scored 18 points. He wasn't as aggressive, though, as we've seen him in prior games. I want to see Wiggs continue to stay aggressive. I'm not going to say that the Warriors lost this game tonight, though, because of Andrew Wiggins in any way. It would have just been nice to see him turn it on into another gear. And when he, saw that the Warriors needed that. I mean, Steph did everything he could do in this one, hit 8 threes for the Warriors, but it wasn't enough. The 28 points from Steph just couldn't get him over the hump. There was no real second scorer for the Warriors, and it's worth noting that Jonathan Kuminga missed tonight's game. He also missed the Warriors' last matchup against the Spurs. So both of these back-to-back losses come without Jonathan Kuminga, but no excuses in today's NBA, and especially for this Warriors team. I think it would be pretty pathetic for the Warriors to start making excuses for losing games when they're missing guys, considering how many guys their opponents have been missing throughout this whole season. I mean, they play Boston without Jaylen Brown. They play the Pelicans without Zion, and it seems like every team that they're playing is not at full strength. The Brooklyn Nets tonight, a good example of that, without Nick Claxton, without Ben Simmons. So the Warriors need to go out there and find a way to win with or without Jonathan Kuminga. And Kuminga, it would have been nice to have him in the non-Steph minutes. I mean, the bench was really, I'm not going to say unremarkable, but they just weren't themselves tonight. 9 points from Buddy Hield. He had an off night shooting just 3 of 12 from the field. But Moses Moody, he was the bright spot. And that's why I was so confused about this, because every night it's a different guy off the bench, right? I mean, some nights it's Buddy Hield. A lot of nights it's Buddy Hield. Some nights it's Jonathan Kuminga. Some nights it's Brandon Podziemski. Tonight it was Moses Moody. It was his night to keep going off. And for whatever reason, the Warriors just get away from him in the second half. And it just seemed like, again, like Steve Kerr just went back to the old way of thinking, which is, I'm just going to put my starters back out there and we're just going to go win this game because our starters are better than their starters. And tonight, that just flat out wasn't the case, man. I mean, you need to go. TJD needed to be out there late in this game, pounding the paint. And that's where the Warriors were finding success. He was the biggest guy out there. He could have had a much bigger game tonight than just 8 points and 3 rebounds in 17 minutes. He was 4 of 7 from the field. He had 2 blocks out there in those 17 minutes. I would have loved to see TJD get some more run. We've seen him come up big in these moments where other teams have been small. We saw him do that at the end of last season when the Warriors really needed him. I don't know why they didn't go to that. And again, Moses Moody, he was one of the only Warriors that was a plus, that was a positive in the plus minus tonight. He was a +3 with his 15 points. And again, no Kevon Looney, only 13 minutes. So, I mean, the Warriors go away from their size in the second half, and that is why they lost this game. I mean, you get shell-shocked from the Nets making all those threes, and you rush to get Steph back in there so that you can just compete with their three-point shooting, and you just didn't need to do that. You did not need to devolve into playing the game the Brooklyn Nets wanted you to play. If the Warriors had just slowed the pace of this one down after they got up those 18 points, and they just started feeding the rock into the interior like they were doing in that first half, they coast to a win in this one. They coast to a win. Instead, they allow the Nets, they open the door for the Nets to get back in. And again, it's not like the Warriors were shooting poorly from three-point range. It's just that it fed into the rhythm that the Nets wanted to play in. The Warriors only made one less three than the Brooklyn Nets. They only they made 19 and the Nets made 20. So I mean, but the other things, the points off turnovers, all of it added up that the Warriors just, I mean, you fell into their trap. You fell into what they wanted to do. If they had just kept playing their game and kept to the plan, the Warriors would have won this one going away. Last, it's a 128-120 loss, and they've now dropped 2 games in a row. And you're looking at this Warriors schedule coming up, and next up, you got the Thunder coming to town, and then you go to Phoenix to play the Suns. Oh, and then by the way, you get some NBA Cup group play with the Denver Nuggets, and then you that's a road game, or it's a road game up in Denver, so that's going to be tough. And then you come back home and you get the Rockets, which is a tough matchup, and then you get the Timberwolves, and then the Timberwolves again. This is a hell of a schedule that brings you up to December 8th. So for the next couple weeks, the Warriors have a murderer's gauntlet of opponents, and I think we're really going to get a sense of where this team stands. I mean, they maybe some of the novelty of what they were doing at the start of the season has worn off. Maybe other teams have a little bit better of a scouting report deeper down this Warriors roster now, and maybe that's a little bit of what we're seeing as well. But we're going to find out a lot about this team over the next 2 weeks. And as I said, you got the Thunder coming up next on Wednesday, and that's who's sitting at the top of the Western Conference with the Warriors. The Thunder won tonight, and the Warriors lost, so they move ahead of the Thunder move ahead of the Warriors in the to hold the top spot in the Western Conference all alone. The Warriors fall to second in the West, which still not too shabby. But are there cracks in the armor? Let's talk about that next on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in one place. So when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And today's show is also sponsored by Game Time. I love live events, from concerts to sporting events and everything in between, and I rely on Game Time to get my tickets. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I also love the all-in pricing feature. Toggling this feature on shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Game Time also gives customers the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And with Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Receipt of copy does not constitute an order. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. Tonight, the Warriors dropped back-to-back games, lost to the Spurs, gave up a late lead in that one after owning a 17-point lead. The Warriors tonight drop a game to the Nets after they got up by an 18-point lead, ended up losing this one by 8, lost that one to the Spurs by 8 as well. Both instances giving up late leads, which leads me to the question, are there cracks in this Warriors armor? And in my immediate reaction is no, because I think that this team is going to be just fine. I think that right now you might not be fully healthy. You know, you're missing Kuminga, who I saw someone in the chat ask why he was not there tonight. He was out with an illness, so he should be just fine physically when he comes back. But I mean, I think that this is just a deviation from the norm. This isn't the Warriors, getting forced into playing a different type of basketball. This was the Warriors psyching themselves out into playing a different type of basketball. There's nothing that the Nets did to like force the Warriors to become a different team. It was the Warriors not sticking with what worked. It was the Warriors getting away from that interior game, from their bench, from Moses Moody, from Trayce Jackson-Davis, and from those bigs on the interior. I mean, the Warriors you keep playing Kevon Looney down there, you keep playing Trace Jackson-Davis down there, and you let Moses Moody go do his thing, and you probably win this game. You can't just have one game plan, one plan of attack, and one thing that you fall back on. And the Warriors so far this year have not shown that they are that kind of a team. That's what they were kind of a one-trick pony in years past, especially last year, where it was, Steph or bust. And it was like Steph needs to have 35 or the Warriors are going to lose. And that's really kind of what it started to feel like tonight. If Steph had just gone nuclear in the fourth, maybe the Warriors win this game. But it didn't need to be that way. It didn't need to hinge all on Stephen Curry. And because of that, because of the way this all unfolded, that tells me the Warriors beat themselves tonight. That's what's frustrating about this loss, is that you still feel like the Warriors could have beat this Nets team. Like, this is a very beatable Nets team. They do shoot the ball really well, but defensively, they leave a lot to be desired. But you made things easier for them by kind of playing into their game. If you had gone into the paint repeatedly in the second half, I bet you the Nets get so worn down that you end up probably near 70, maybe over 70 points in the paint against this Nets team. That's how weak they were on the interior. Instead, you end up jacking up a bunch of threes, and while you make some of them, it really played into the Nets' hand. It allowed this Nets team to come back in the second half, because all they needed was a little bit of a slump from the Warriors. And once those shots started falling for the Nets, this Warriors defense looked shell-shocked. They did not respond very well, and you know that Jerry Stackhouse is going to hold this team accountable. Back-to-back games where you're giving up 18-point, 17-point leads, Jerry Stackhouse is going to hold this whole team accountable. They're not going to be very good grades on those defensive report cards that all of them get issued from Stack after every game. So this is a turning point, I think, for the Warriors this season. This is going to tell us a lot, how they respond to these back-to-back losses, coming out and playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are, for my money, the best team in the West. I mean, the Thunder are a very, very, very solid team, very, very, very deep. And when they're fully healthy, this team is absolutely massive on the interior with Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren. So, I mean, the Warriors are going to have their work cut out for them when they hit the floor again on Wednesday to play the Thunder. And this one, I feel like they should have just been able to get out of this one. I mean, they should have been able to just dominate this paint. And that's what they did. I mean, they just could have been so much more dramatic, and the Warriors could have won going away tonight if they had just taken that control of the game. It's not just about the where you can score your points. It's about how you can dictate the flow and the tempo of the game, the pacing of everything. And that's what the Warriors did for the majority of this one until the Nets hit them with that giant run in that third quarter that it was just a Mike Tyson haymaker, and the Warriors could not get back up off the mat. And again, 9 different players hit threes for the Nets. I think that was indicative that everyone was just hot tonight for the Brooklyn Nets. The Warriors defense was a little bit slower on the rotations in that second half, but I still don't think it was a terrible defensive showing. It was definitely subpar for what we've seen from the Warriors this season. I mean, you give up 128 points. You can't call that a good night. And you look across the shooting categories for the Nets. I mean, 49% from the field, 44% from three, and 26 points at the free throw line. You didn't really shut them down in any phase of their offensive game. It seems like they kind of just got what they wanted in the second half. And 41 points for the Nets in that fourth quarter compared to 28 points for the Warriors. I mean, they get outscored in both the third and the fourth quarters. That's something we haven't seen very often from this Warriors team so far this year. So I do expect the Warriors to bounce back after this loss. It's just their second loss at home all season long. They lost once earlier this season to the Clippers, and now they've lost to the Nets, but just still hold a 5-2 record at home. So that's a positive compared to where they ended last season at just being 500 at Chase Center. So, but this one seemed like the Warriors had this one in the bag, but they let this one slip away, get away from what was working for them, and now they got some real tests coming up. Oklahoma City Thunder is next on deck on Wednesday, and we'll be coming to you live with the postcast, as we always do here on the Locked On Warriors channel. So thanks for tuning in. That's all the time that we got for you guys today. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.